Hey friends, this video I'm going to talk about some of the things that I like to do for myself as a little self-care because I know it can be taxing working from home for about 60 hours a week. It's really easy to just have our phone or our computer open all the time, and I'm going to go over a couple of things that I like to do just to break away from that for a little while. And then I'm also going to go over a 14 question email that I got from someone who is writing an article on full-time selling, and I'll give you the questions and also some of the answers. I think that I get a lot of these questions often, and I think it would be beneficial for anyone who might be interested in working full-time from home, especially selling online. Self-care is really important because you can be working 60 or more hours a week from the time that you wake up looking at your phone to the time that you go to bed. And I like to take time for self-care where I just put the phone away, put the computer away. Care can be a lot of different things. For me, it means waking up and going for a run and just enjoying the run and nature and not using really any headphones or anything, and to spend that time thinking about goals and aspirations and just letting my mind become creative with different ideas. That maybe I'll come home and do like a special facial mask or treatment that I don't normally do. Also during that time, I'll just be thinking over different goals with our family and with Poshmark and business and those things. Making a juice is something that I do many days, but it's something that I always look forward to. This particular one that I'm making is made up of carrots and a beet and some apples. I also like to spend a little time reading some encouraging words from a good book or a devotional. After that, I will take a notebook and write down some goals that I have for the day or the week, or just some ideas that I thought of during the morning, maybe on my run. I'll write those things down. Let's get into the question and answer session. Hey guys, I had someone reach out to me and ask me a series of questions for an interview and for a paper that they are writing, and a lot of the questions I thought were really good questions and questions that I have been asked often, whether that's on Instagram or YouTube. So I'm just gonna read off the questions that she sent me and then give you my answer. Number one, how long have I been selling clothes on Poshmark? I downloaded the app in December 2014, and then I didn't make my first sale until March of 2015. So I've had the app for 3 years. Question 2 is, do you have a background in fashion, merchandising, marketing, or advertising? I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education, but I do not have a degree in any of those other items, although I have self-taught myself with a lot of the different things that I feel are necessary for me to know. And I love learning new things, especially with things that I like and I'm interested in, and Poshmark is definitely one of those things. So I love learning about merchandising and advertising and fashion retail. Where is your favorite place to go thrift shopping? How often do you go thrift shopping a week? My favorite place to go is the Salvation Army. I know in different regions of the country, some thrift stores are different than other thrift stores. I know where I used to live, I liked Goodwill a lot, but right now I really love the Salvation Army. I go shopping about once to twice a week, which equals about 3 to 6 hours sometimes shopping, which doesn't seem like a lot, but I usually try to get a good amount of items. How are you able to make Poshmarking a full-time job, and how many hours a week do you typically spend working? Back in 2014 through 2015, I worked part-time as a coach for a running group and for a few volleyball teams, and I really enjoyed that. I worked part-time, and I was also trying to look into becoming a full-time teacher, and then I did Poshmark kind of as a side hustle, and I really enjoyed it, and it started to grow bigger and bigger, and I was able to make more sales until the sales that I was making equaled more profit than working an actual job. And then I knew at that point that I could probably go into it full time, and that's what I decided to do when the season was over. I decided I had a few months off, and that's when I really tried to focus on my sales and growing my closet. And I was able to do that. And after that, I became a full-time seller. And then how many hours a week do I work? It's so weird trying to figure out how many hours you work as a full-time reseller, because it is constant, nonstop. And that's why I wanted to put in a little bit of a start in this video with self-care and how important it is, because it's so easy to get distracted to where you wake up and the first thing that you do is check your phone, and then you're on your phone all day, and then the last thing you do before bed is check your phone. And that can be a good thing, but it can also hinder a lot of other things that are good in your life. And I try to keep a good balance of putting my phone down, walking away from it for a little while, and then going back to it. But I would say probably over 40 hours is a pretty safe bet. I would say maybe it might be closer to 60 hours, but but it's not the same as working a 60-hour a week job where you're on the clock with a supervisor or coworkers and high stress. A lot of it's really relaxing, like going shopping or listing items or packaging items. 6 is, what's your favorite part about reselling your clothes on Poshmark? And my favorite thing about selling clothes on Poshmark is being able to be an encouragement and also receiving an encouragement back from some of my buyers. I love being able to put a little card in my packages that has a quote on it by Coco Chanel that says, "Beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself." And I love that quote. I think that's a really encouraging quote and a really true quote. And on the back of the card, I have some encouraging Bible verses, and I love sending those out to people. And then I also receive a lot of feedback on that I really love. So that's my favorite thing. And then my second favorite thing is definitely being at home and just working from home. I love that. I don't have to go out driving very much. I don't really care for driving a lot, and I love just working from home. So that's the secondary thing that I like. And then the third thing is that I love to go shopping for the clothes. So those are my top 3 favorite things about selling. 7 is, what's your least favorite part about reselling your clothes on Poshmark? My least favorite thing is when an item doesn't sell. I can't stand it if I have something sitting in my closet for more than 3 months. I want it sold. I like high turnover. I like to constantly be rotating, and I try to keep up with selling the items and not having them sit for very long. Number 8, what made you want to make a YouTube channel giving tips to Poshmark users? I had a lot of people asking me questions that were my family and friends, and sitting down and explaining it was just huge. Like I felt like I needed a whole curriculum to tell people, different tips and things that I like to do as a seller. And when I started, I couldn't find very much online that was very helpful, and it was kind of all over the place as far as tips goes, and maybe a little ambiguous. So I put out originally just 30 tips to help people get started. And then I really got into doing hauls and some other things. Have you ever had any awkward or strange experiences while reselling clothing online? The most awkward thing, I guess, is when I'm buying the clothing and people ask me what I'm gonna do with it, or they ask me if I'm gonna sell it, and I give an honest answer. I'm like, oh yeah, I sell online. But I always feel a little bit awkward when they ask me that, because I feel like it's a little personal. But I don't mind answering. I'm always thrown off guard a little bit with that question. But that's probably the only really awkward thing that is involved for me selling clothes online. Number 10, what pieces tend to sell the quickest? Is there a particular brand you find yourself selling out more often than others? For me, this might not be straight across the board, but for me, if I have a Lululemon item and I'm willing to take 60% roughly off of the retail price, I can sell it within hours. So I know that Lululemon sells really quickly for a lot of people. And for me, if it's marked at about 60% lower than the retail price, then I can sell it usually pretty fast. What do you use to take pictures of your clothes? I use my Samsung Galaxy S8, and then I sometimes use like the brightness adjuster or the VSCO app that I talked about in my lighting video. I love using those lighting tricks from that video, but just my phone. Do you sell on any other platforms besides Poshmark? I only sell clothing on Poshmark. Have you ever thought about opening your own store or creating your own website to resell clothes? I have thought about opening my own website. I love spending time just to think and develop and strategize, and I have thought about it, but right now I am just focusing on selling on Poshmark. What is your biggest tip for people just starting out and wanting to sell on Poshmark? The best tip that I can give to new users is just to learn from other people who may have been selling for a while. And also Poshmark within the app offers some frequently asked questions, and then they have their terms and their policies written on the app. And I recommend just reading through all of that information before you actually get started. That is always really helpful. And then learning from other people who have been doing it for a while is really helpful. And then just getting the work done, whether that's listing items or sharing your closet. Don't be afraid to put in those 60 hours every week. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will link some of the other videos that I mentioned earlier during my talk around the screen now, so if you want to go check those out, you can. My Poshmark closet is linked down in the description, as well as my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, friends!